Okay, welcome everybody to your video. This is all about what medical education writing is exactly. And I've been working in the field of medical education writing for about 7, 8 years now. And this is what I do. I do this full time as a career, and then I also help people get into their first medical education writing roles. You might know this already, as you've probably gone around and sort of Googled how to get into medical writing or what is medical writing or this sort of thing. And what you've probably noticed, or maybe you haven't noticed this yet, but I'm here to tell you there are many different types of medical writing out there. So, as you can see on screen, we've got publications, regulatory writing, clinical trial documentation, medical journalism, copywriting, and then what I have in bold here is medical education writing. So, this is also sometimes called medcoms writing. I've seen it referred to it as that. And this is what the topic of the video is. And this is really what my specialty is. And this is what I teach people to get into or how to get into this field. So just want to let you know. So if you're interested in regulatory or clinical trial documentation, anything like that, that is not my wheelhouse. That's not what I know. That's not what I educate on. So if those are the things that you're really interested in, definitely you probably want to move on to somebody else. But if you are interested in medical education writing, then you are in the right place. Okay, so let's go through a quick definition here for what medical education writing is. So it really involves creating clear, accurate, and engaging educational materials for healthcare professionals, for patients, and sometimes for caregivers. And it's really supporting learning, it's supporting training and decision making in health and medical related fields, right? So basically, the key component here is that it is educational. So it's treating the people who are reading the material or watching um, the video or whatever it is that you're creating as a writer. It's treating those people, the end audience, as learners um, who are going to be getting something out of this that is going to be related to their health, right? Mostly your audience is going to be HCPs, so healthcare practitioners, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Here's the other key piece here. Generally speaking, when you're working in medical education writing, you are communicating breakthroughs in medicine and in science, right? So it's often focusing on educating healthcare professionals, again, also known as HCPs, about new healthcare innovations, clinical breakthroughs, and evolving medical practices. So you're often translating these complex research into clear, actionable materials, and it helps to bridge that gap between the science world, so scientific advancements, and the practical application for patients in healthcare practitioner settings, right? So when you really think about this, if you are a specialist of some sort, you don't necessarily know all of the information that's coming out of the research world. And when new breakthroughs happen, or when new drugs are coming down the pipeline, or new medical devices, people who are practicing in the field who actually have patients, they don't necessarily automatically know that information or know who it's applicable for, who's eligible to use these types of drugs or devices. They need to be educated on this, and that's where you come in as a medical education writer to give you a rounder picture about the types of projects you might be working on as a medical education writer. It's so many different things, right? So it really depends on where you're working, what type of project you're working on, but it might be any of the things on this list here, right? So you have more traditional pieces like slide decks, pamphlets, websites, and websites could be anything, right? Like that could be for patients, that could be for healthcare practitioners, for providers, that could also be for caregivers, perhaps, right? It really just depends. You might work on e-learning modules. A lot of the time, this will be something like the CME that I was talking about. So, continuing medical education. We'll deal a lot with e-learning modules. You might have interactive apps, again, mostly for healthcare practitioners in this case. Conference installations. Conferences are huge, right? So a lot of healthcare practitioners, they're going to these different conferences, right? Let's say it's a gastroenterologist or something, they're going to be going to conferences that have to do with their line of work. And this is how they're often first interfacing with these new breakthroughs that are coming down the pipe, right? And so you have to capture their attention with engaging information, engaging booth installations that again capture their attention, but also educate them on things that they need to be knowing that are going to be coming out within the next year or so. Disease awareness pieces, those are really big. Again, that can be disseminated in lots of different ways. Again, it could be a pamphlet, it could be a website, something like that. That again can be for both healthcare practitioners as well as patients. And then the list continues, right? So mechanism of disease, animations. This is just an example. It doesn't have to be an animation, but mechanism of disease. So how that disease is actually working in the body, what the pathways of that disease might be. And then there's also mechanism of action. So this is typically the mechanism of action of a drug, of a molecule, how that molecule is working in the body and addressing whatever the underlying disease is. Then we have disease progression visualizers. Those are really interesting. That would be something like, let's say you have a project about MS, and specialists need to know, okay, this is how the disease typically progresses in the body. This is how this might affect someone's gait, their mobility, maybe slurred speech, something like that. And so it will actually you can visualize that through the use of this tool. Then we have also symptom simulations. So that could be something very similar or very simple. Could be a website, for example, and let's say you're dealing with macular degeneration. What does that look like? What does a person who has that for 1 year, what might their vision look like versus someone who has had that for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, right? You can actually see through a simulation what it might be like to be living with macular degeneration. And this can be done, all of these things can be done for all different types of diseases, right? And then I have on here AR and VR pieces. This is sort of more for more technologically forward companies or technologically forward pieces. Again, these might be for conference installations or something like that, but just, so many different scientific and medical stories can be told in so many different ways, including things like AR and VR pieces. Here we are on the last slide here, and where might you work as a medical education writer? So right off the top of the bat here, I have medical communication agencies. This one is in bold because this is what I know, and this is typically what I help people get into. So again, I help people get their first roles within medical communications, also known as medcoms agencies. But there are lots of different places that you might be able to work, right? It could be pharma and biotech companies, medical device companies, continuing medical education companies, so those CME programs or companies, hospitals and health systems, and also places like health technology companies. So if you think of things like wearable technologies or some of these new health tech startups that are coming up. So think about something like a Fitbit or something like that, right? They need people who know the science, who know the medical expertise behind them to be able to, effectively convey to their potential buyers what they're getting out of this, right? If they were to buy their app or buy their technology, whatever it is, they hire medical education writers, right? Because that's essentially what they're doing. They're helping people improve their health through their products. So that is it for me. I'd like to try to keep these these videos short and sweet. They're sort of bite-sized, but if you are looking to get into this line of work and you're curious about this, I do have a free masterclass that you can take. It's 27 minutes long. We dive deeper into this this line of work and also skills that you need and how to sort of showcase those best to potential employers. If you're interested in that, I will leave a link below. And until next time, I will see you later.